and I'm happy to be opening this meeting. My name is Sarah Mortensson, and I'm the CEO for Softhouse. Softhouse, who are Softhouse? Softhouse is the down-to-earth experts in development projects, the creative power of the design process, and an accelerator for software-intensive product companies. And often we do that at the same time. We both do beautiful experiences, coding the future, and accelerating different companies where we help them. So that is who we are. And where are we? So I saw some colleagues joining, and if we take the next slide, we will just super short let you know where you can meet us if you want to meet us face to face. So up from Luleå, that is up in the north, and down to Sarajevo. So again, good to see you, participants joining from Sarajevo. And then also 8 other offices spread across this geography, as you can see. I stand here in a pretty gray, I must admit, pretty gray Malmö office. Still a lovely office, but pretty gray December weather outside my window. Next slide shows what we will cover today. What to expect from this fantastic 60 minutes to come. First, we will have our colleague Isabel sharing some great information / inspiration about digital transformation and bridging the gap between business and tech. And then Amer Mohammed, it is time for you. What comes after the app? And then we will have time for Q&A. So let's get started. Isabel.
Thank you, Sarah. So nice to be here. My name is Isabel. So I am a site manager at the Stockholm office of Softhouse, but I also have a long background in digital transformation as a digital strategist. So I'm going to bridge Amer in here and nudge a bit on digital transformation and also AI so we can start the slides. Okay, so when we look into digital transformation perspectives, we want to have 3 different perspectives: people perspective, business perspective, and the tool perspective. One thing that we commonly do as humans, we want to find a solution straight away. So it's very easy to go into the solution from the start, but what we want to do is we want to jump back to the people. We want to jump back to the business. What is our tool going to do? Because if we jump into the tool in the first site, then we might miss what it actually is using for. So the digital transformation perspective is a ground where we form some type of strategy to actually accelerate the business and increase profitability. We want to gain efficiency of some way from a need, and we want to have a competitive edge in the market, right? So we could jump to the next slide. And one strategy that is growing a lot, as you guys know, AI is very popular at the moment. And depending where you are in the organization and how AI mature you are, you need to take different steps. And by doing so, it's a very complex area. So what we usually talk about is that we need to investigate, we need to analyze, but most of all, we also need to look into data, because AI is very much built on a foundation of data to be a proactive, to gain a proactive awareness when it comes to customer experience, for example, or automation or optimization of manual tasking. So the complex area itself needs investigation before jumping into the project. And that's where you as a business need to understand where are we and where do we want to move. So we can jump to the next one. What we see is different popularity in the market right now. So these 4 areas are the ones that most commonly focus on, and automation and optimization is very much about saving time, gaining efficiency, work smarter, and repeatedly tasks, make them streamlined so we don't need to do this manual work. And one other part that also we see, of course, is to gain a very good market position in customer experience. if we look at Fedora, if we look at Uber, if we look at those type of companies, they have really succeeded in basing their foundation on their data maturity, using the data to be proactive, to actually give good campaigns for their customers, for them to buy more. So what we want to do, of course, is that with our digital transformation journey, we want to get some return on investment and be efficient. But to do that, we need to take some steps. And I'm just going to show you guys two different perspectives of ref cases that we have done in Softhouse based on these areas. These areas often go hand in hand, you can say. So if we look at this one, this is focusing on efficiency, you should say, automation, optimization. So as a consultant manager, we are a consultant company. We sell our consultant services in a way. And to be able to do that, we need to have a good dialogue with our consultancy brokers. But we also fill in very much different type of competence matrices. And we match CVs to requirements in an assignment. And it's a lot of manual work to actually write every requirement and a pitch. So what we have developed here is an optimization AI foundation that actually scans the CV, scans the assignment requirements and map them together and formulate a good answer so we doesn't have to write it ourselves. And the funny thing about this iteration process when you develop AI is that sometimes you don't know what's going to happen. So when we worked from one day to another, it started to reply in German, which was very funny because we didn't train it in German in any way. So you never know what's going to happen. But that's why AI can be complex and you need to do good foundation work to actually get a good result. But what we do see here is that we have a good use, getting the efficiency of filling in these types of matrices. So we save time, which is very nice. So we can jump to the next one. So this is the case for an external customer where they have dishwashers and they lease their dishwashers to their customers. So these dishwashers have been connected to IoT, and IoT is the foundation for extracting data, you could say. But what they didn't know at the moment was how they were going to use the data. So we talk about data maturity, right? So one thing of actually gaining a good position in the market is also understanding the customer. So what we did here was that we worked together with the company. We also did surveys and talked to their customers to actually see what they want to have. And what they did want to have was a unique customer service experience. They wanted to lease the machines and they wanted to just have a seamless experience. So what Nordisk Clean now have is that they have dashboards. They see the different types of health from each machine. And if there are spare parts that needs to be changed, if there are errors in the machine, they can spot that in an early stage and be proactive before the customer even knows it. One thing that we also see here that goes hand in hand with these types of projects is sustainability part. So we can see the consumption of energy, water, and heat. We can use that data and actually do marketing campaigns. We can do sales campaigns on that. So it's the same way as Fedora works or as Uber works. They use the data on their customers and actually are proactive and use it for marketing in a way. And also one really nice feature here is when there is spare parts that needs to be changed, when there is detergent that needs to be ordered, it does it automatically. So here we combine AI, but we also combine other parts of software like BI, like IoT, because usually AI doesn't stand on their own. They need other parts to actually give value. So I just wanted you guys to see the different perspective, one internal perspective of how we can be efficient, one other way of how we can actually meet a good customer experience. And I bridge over to you, Amer. So looking forward to hear about you and what you have to say.
Great. There we go. Awesome. So Let me see if I can figure out how to share my screen. Technology is not really my thing. Let's see here. Share. Now you see something, and now you should see the PowerPoint, and now you should see the presentation, right? Is it working?
Yes.
Yes, great. So, very excited to be here. I was expecting around 13 people. I never thought there would be so many, but very fun to see. My name is Amer Mohammed, and just shortly about myself, I'm a programmer and a nerd, and I've been that since I was 11, something like that. And I started my first company in Switzerland, where I developed the world's first web-based distribution system for free newspapers. I did that for around 5 or 6 years, and then sold that company, moved back to Sweden. Wasn't really sure what to do, so I decided that I would become a champion in the online game World of Warcraft, if you are old enough to remember that game. Around 12 million players back then, and I did that for 3 years, 8 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I think we reached number 11 or so in the world. So it was good, but it was not the best. And back then there was no such thing as esports, where you can go to Vegas and win like $2 million prize monies. There was nothing like that. The only thing I got basically was obesity. So when I reached 120 kilos, my wife said, enough is enough. So I had just heard about this new phone called iPhone and this concept called apps. So I thought for sure there are fitness apps. So I went and bought the phone, tried every fitness app, thought it was boring. So I figured I'll do this better myself. And that was my next startup. So the idea was to mix World of Warcraft with Runkeeper. So you signed up in the app, you got your own game character, but you had to jog to level up the character. So that was the basic idea. And that's also when I met Rebecca, by the way. So we go way back. I did that for 5 years, I think. Brought in around 11 or 12 million kroners in investment money, and then sold that. And after selling that, out of the blue, I didn't really know what to do. I was around 35 or 36 years old. Stena Line called me up, the shipping company, and because they read about me in the newspaper, and they asked if I wanted to be the head of innovation for them. And I thought to myself, great, I've never really had a real job, so let's try that. How hard can that be? And this article dates back to 2017. And when I joined Stena Line at 15, I think, 2015, we started implementing AI. So I've been almost working with this technology for 10 years. And one of the most commonly, frequently asked questions I get is, how the hell did you manage to sell in this concept almost 10 years ago, when no one has ever read about AI or heard about it, when it's hard even today? And basically what I did is I used my startup approach. And in a startup, for those of you who know, you don't really sell a product, you sell a vision, you sell an idea. So I used the same technique there. Every year at Stena, there is something called Stena Day. And basically what it is, for those of you who don't know, Stena consists of many companies, and every company has their own CEO. And once a year, they get to go on stage in front of the Olson family, who owns the empire, and basically brag how many billions they made for them this year. So it's like a pissing contest between CEOs. And the year I joined, for the first time ever, IT was allowed to be on stage. And someone had heard that I was pretty charismatic on stage, so they asked me, do you want to represent IT? And I said, yeah, for sure I want. So I put together this cool concept. I created this AI called Pluto, and I made this awesome product. It was all fake. Nothing was real, but it didn't matter because I wanted to sell the vision. But apparently my boss saw this and he became totally pale in the face, and he said, "You cannot say this." I said, "Why not?" "But it's not true." "It doesn't matter. We sell it, and if someone buys it, we build it. I mean, how hard can it be? I know other people in the planet has done it, and if they can do it, we can do it. Worst case, I go to them and ask them how they did it. It's not that hard." He said, no, you're not allowed to do that." Then I thought, okay, so shit, what will I do now? And part of the idea was to create a movie, and I wanted the budget for the movie. It was around 130,000 kroners. So I thought, okay, I'll pay for the movie myself, and then I'll just hand it in as an expense in my expense report and see what happens. And luckily I got the money back, but it took like a year almost. But anyway, so I made two versions, one for the censored one, and one was my real one. And I thought to myself, fuck it, I don't care if I get fired. So presentation day comes along, and I go up and I switch them back to my original one, and I show the movie and I show the concept, and my boss becomes total pale in the face, and he goes out of the room. It's like 800 people, so you can see when someone gets up and goes out. And then after the movie ended, it was total silence in the room, and then I think it felt like 30 minutes, but probably like 3 seconds. Mr. Dahlsten Olsson, who owns the empire, he stood up and he started applauding. And you know, if the Godfather applauds, then everyone else has to applaud. So from that, I became global head of innovation for all Stena companies. So that's a career tip for the young people who want to climb in their career. I did that for almost 6 years, and all the attention we got for the AI in production and industry, it was world first stuff. Got the attention of Co-op in Sweden, Co-op, the big grocery retailer, and they called me up one day and said, "We're going to start a new business unit, and we're going to invest heavily in it, and we want someone to run it. Are you interested?" And I thought to myself, I mean, yeah, I mean, Co-op is worthless. The experience is shit. There's a lot to do there. So I said, let's meet. So I went up to Stockholm, met with the CEO, Magnus Johansson, shook his hand, and told him, just so you know, I haven't been in a Co-op store for like 11 years. I think it's too expensive and I don't like it. And he said, yeah, I mean, we know. We had 50% market share in the 70s. When I joined in 2019, I think it was 16 or something like that. So we know we lost that fight. But we believe that digitalization is the way forward. And I said, yeah, I totally agree. So what's your plan? He said, yeah, I mean, you're gonna be so proud. Just last week, we approved a new warehouse that we're gonna build in Eskilstuna, the world's most modern warehouse. And I thought, okay, sure. And then last month, we released a new e-com platform, state of the art. He said, okay. Yeah, as you can tell, we're really, putting a lot of investments in this. I said, just give me a second. I have to text my wife. And I took up my phone. And I said, hi, honey. We should shop at Co-op this evening because they have the world's most modern warehouse. And it took like 4 or 5 seconds. He answered with a question mark, and I showed him the answer. And I said, she doesn't really care. Are you sure it's the right warehouse? And then he laughed at me and he said, okay, I get your point. You don't have to be so brutal about it. I said, I just want to make sure I understand this correctly. So how many are you in the management, in the top management? Yeah, we're 11. So all of you 11 went on a 2-day retreat, and your combined intelligence for 2 days, and your conclusion was that you lost all this market share because your warehouse is too old. Is that how I interpret this correctly? He said, no, I mean, obviously not. I said, yeah, digitalization is not about warehouses or e-com platforms. No one gives a shit. The only thing that matters is the experience. And if you can save me time, I will choose you. If you take time, I will never come back to you. And he said, that's great. That's what we need to hear. Do you want to join? I said, yeah, let's join. So I did that for 4 years. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that as well. But I'm going to split this presentation in 3 parts. I will talk a little bit about tech, not so much because it's really boring to listen to. a lot about experience and also what comes after the app, which is A2A. And we'll talk a little bit later about what that is. So let's get started with technology. And the only thing I want to...
Sorry, Amer, if I may, you can hide, and then we will... Yeah.
I didn't... Oh.
Oh, no. Yeah. Help. Yeah, great.
Okay,
thanks.
great. Yeah, you see, technology. No one likes it. So the only thing I want to say about technology is this. You need to understand and accept that throughout humanity and human history, the only thing that pushes humanity forward is technological breakthroughs. Nothing else. Absolutely nothing else. So, and it's easy to nod your head. I was doing a keynote for a big municipality in the West here in Sweden, like 1,200 people in the audience, with everyone, politicians, everything. And I asked them, do you accept this? They said, yeah, for sure, we accept it. I said, okay, so let me ask you this. 2 weeks ago, there was this Dev Day by OpenAI, the press conference. Did you watch it? 1,200 people, not a single hand raised. Okay, did you watch the Microsoft Ignite event in June? No one. Google I/O in May? Not a single one. Okay. What about the Apple event 3 weeks ago? 4 people out of 1,200. Then I said, okay, and then I always ask this question just to see how fucked up things are. I always ask, did you watch Eurovision? And half of the people raised their hands. I said, okay, you need to understand the following. So let me ask you this. In 2014, when the people living in your municipality, when they started demanding apps, do you remember that? Yeah, for sure we remember. It was a big crisis we had. We had to develop services and apps very quickly because it was a big demand from everyone. And then I asked them, where did the app come from? Was it another municipality? Was it the municipality director? Or was it the Prime Minister of Sweden? It was Apple, right? It was Tim Cook. What your boss says means nothing. Absolutely nothing. What your director says of the municipality means nothing. It affects nothing in society. What the Prime Minister of Sweden says means absolutely nothing. But when Tim Cook presents something that affects 3 billion people, you better fucking listen. Because the app idea did not come from your citizens. It came from the behavior in Instagram. So you need to, it's easy for you to say, yeah, we accept technology, but it's bullshit. You don't. You rather watch Eurovision than you watch the Open Dev Day event from OpenAI. So you need to accept and act on it. The most important thing you can do in your life and your career, and to understand where the world is headed, is to watch these Magnificent Seven, as they are called. If you don't know what it is, Google it, and follow their YouTube channels. So every time there is an event, you need to know what they're up to. They set the agenda for society. No one else, not your boss and not the government. Right or wrong, that's another discussion, but that's how it is. And what is coming now is 1,000 times more impactful than everything else combined previously. And it's easy, to say, Amer, I think you're exaggerating. So once I read this report about the transition from steam power to electricity, there were 4 researchers looking into that, and they wanted to understand how come every company knew about this new technology, electricity, but they still, less than 10% jumped on the bandwagon immediately. And they wanted to understand why. So it turned out that every company knew, and every company did a business case. And they came to the conclusion that, the efficiency increase is between 20 and 40%, not 1,000%, like this electricity keynote speaker we listened to yesterday was talking about. Then it turned out that the average efficiency increase was closer to 11,000%, not 20 to 40, like these business cases showed. 11,000% average. And they wanted to understand couldn't they be so wrong? And it turned out that there was an innovation that came along during this transition period of almost 30 years. It was easier for people back then to imagine a flying pig than what I'm about to show you on my next slide. So a flying pig is easy, right? You have a pig, and you have wings, and then it flies away. It's not real, but it's easy to imagine. But what I'm about to show you now, for the people back then, it was impossible to imagine. And it was this innovation right here. So when you run a factory or build a factory that runs on steam power, you need to put all the machines next to the source because you cannot transport steam. It diminishes over distance. So when they looked at the business case for electricity, how do you think the factory looked like? The same. They put all the machines next to the socket. But then it turned out that you could have one socket here and one socket on the other side of the factory. So you could optimize the flow in the factory. And then came the idea that changed society forever. One person said, you know what? Why do we produce everything in this factory and then ship it somewhere? Can't we just build a factory where we need the stuff? And this transformed the industrial age. Previously, the industrial age was focused on water because it needed water to run. So every industry was close to water. But now you can put the electrical socket wherever you want in the country. So you no longer need to have factories next to water. How many do you think of those companies back then had this in their business case? Not a single one. And the moral of this story is that I've met almost close to 300 organizations since I left Co-op 4 years ago. And every single one does the same mistake. And I tell them, you cannot understand, you cannot see what is coming in the next 24 months. It's easier for you today to imagine a flying pig than what I'm going to talk about in 2 years on my next keynote, because I have no clue. So the only thing you can do here, because this is a general purpose technology, the only thing you can do is jump on the bandwagon and then hope for the best. There is no business case to be calculated here. So enough about technology, because technology was something that you could use once in a time to gain advantages. But today it's a commodity. So there is no technology that someone has access to that the next don't. It's all a commodity. So the only thing you can use to compete with today is the experience. And just to give you a few examples, of experiences of what they have done with certain industries. So if we look at Netflix, for instance, I don't know if you remember Netflix in the 90s. It started as a postal service, as a subscription. So you got home like 5 DVDs and you watched them, and then you send them back with the post office, and then you got 5 new ones, and that kept going like that. And when they figured out digital streaming, they went to Blockbuster and they asked them, do you want to buy this technology or partner with us for $50 million? And Blockbuster laughed at them and said, $50 million, that's what we make in late fees. So 9 years later, they had 8,565 stores when they laughed at them. And 9 years later, Blockbuster was down to 1 single store. And I think it's still open. I'm not really sure. Last time I checked, it was in Alaska. And I think it's like a UN heritage or something like that. So they're not allowed to close down. Same thing with Uber. Uber, I mean, how many taxi companies are there in the world? Let's say, I think only 1 million in India, but let's say 1 million. So do you think that Uber did a SWOT analysis on every single taxi company in the world to understand what their weaknesses and then destroy them? Of course not. What the 2 founders, they were in France on a conference. They left the conference together with 8,000 other people, called the same taxi number. After 2 hours, one of them said, I'm hungry, can we go eat? And the other one said, I don't know. It would be cool if we could see where the taxi is on a map. That's all. They went back to San Francisco, bought 200 GPS tags, put them in the yellow cabs, and the rest is history. The largest logistics platform in the world today. And so on and so forth. So it's always the experience that disrupts an industry, nothing else. And talking about experiences, one of the experiences that I've had the fortunate of developing and being part of is the scan and pay experience that we developed at Co-op. And for those of you who don't know what that is, if you know Shop Express, when you shop in a grocery store where you can scan your items, it's like that, but it's an app in your phone. So you use your phone to scan the product, you pay immediately in the phone, no line, no nothing, and then you just go out. And the scan and pay idea started as the day before my first management meeting. I've never been that high in a company before, so I was very excited. And me myself, I'm a Silicon Valley wannabe, so I read about all these tech CEOs, their biographies. I watch their podcasts, everything, and they always say the same thing. They say that a leader, in their mindset, must always be 3 years ahead, always. Everyone else worries about today, but you as a leader must be 3 years ahead. That's your default. So I assumed that was true for all leaders. That was like common knowledge. You don't have to say it. It was implicit. So the day before the management meeting, this was 2019. I was so excited. I was like, shit, tomorrow we're going to talk about 2022 all day, 10 hours straight. I was super, super excited. I've done my homework. I tried to envision, okay, how do the car looks like in 2022? How do the phone look like in 2022? How do we pay our bills in 2022? Everything. I really prepared everything. So I come to the meeting in the morning, and 45, 50 minutes go by, and there's some talk about some cucumber transport in the north that didn't really arrive or something like that. And I was wondering, oh shit, am I supposed to know about cucumber? I have no idea. Oh, let's wait a little bit. And then another hour goes by, and there's some kind of marketing contract that was messed up. And I'm starting to wonder what's going on, And Magnus, the CEO, he looks at me and he sees that I'm troubled. And he asked me, Amer, is everything okay? And then I looked at him and I said, when are we supposed to talk about 2022? And there's dead silence in the room. And he looks at his secretary, Nina, and he asks, do we have 2022 on the agenda? Or no. Maybe he emailed. Did you email that point? No, I didn't email it. Then I realized, okay, maybe it's not common knowledge that you should be 3 years ahead. So how do I put this in a different way? So I thought for a second and I said, okay, there's one thing I don't understand. He said, yeah, sure, ask. Why do we exist? Dead silence in the room. What? Yeah, I mean, I make 22,000 euros a month. Look at this receipt from yesterday. It says Willys in the top. So I still shop at Willys because it's cheaper. And we've gone from 50% market share to today 16 when I joined 2019. So clearly, our value proposition is not clear. So why do we exist? I don't really understand. Can someone explain it to me? Why don't we just sell it to Amazon? They want to come to the Swedish market. They need infrastructure. Just sell it. And then I heard, the standard answer. They say, yeah, we exist because it's part of Swedish history, solidarity. It's because we are a cooperative. And I said, my wife's little sister, she was working extra at one of the competitors, ICA, at the time. When I got this job, my ugly face was in the branch industry media, where it says, Co-op's new digital director. So she saw my face and she said, oh, that's my sister's husband. Pick up the phone, called me immediately and congratulated me on the new job. Hi, how are you? Congrats on the new job. Yeah, thank you. So can you answer me something? I said, yeah, sure. So why do I have to pay 100 kroners to be a member of the Co-op loyalty program, but it's free with ICA? And, I said as it is, it's because we are a cooperative. And she was like silent for 5-6 seconds, repeating the word cooperative. And then she asked, "Is that a Nazi thing?" And I was baffled. What? Yeah, I remember reading about cooperatives with the Second World War. Yeah, I mean, cooperatives, they were really popular in the post-war era because, to push the prices down, but it has nothing to do with the Nazi party. Ah, okay, I thought you were Nazis. So here we're sitting in this room, 11 directors, everyone highly paid, nice suits, and we're beating our chest over being something that the young generation don't even know what it means. So I asked again, why do we exist? I don't get it. And Pelle, the strategy guy, really nice guy, he said, "You know what? I've been thinking about this also for a couple of months." And I said, "Come on, let's talk about that then. Who cares about cucumbers? Someone else can look them up." So we started that journey, to understand what is our true purpose. And to answer that question, one of the most important questions that you need to answer is what is important to people, not what is important when you shop. That's too narrow, or when you drive, or when you whatever it is. No, what is important, period. And when you Google this question, you get 3 points. Number 1, time. Number 2, health. And number 3, money. Those are top priorities for people. So you, as a product or service provider, if you can give back time, you will be the number 1 choice, because price is a commodity today. Every price is the same. There is no big difference. And if you can help out with the health, or if you can save money. So looking at the grocery industry where I was at the time, one big time thief is the queue, to stand in line. So scan and pay was a response to that. It wasn't a strategy. I've gotten a lot of comments saying, the scan and pay strategy, that was awesome. No, it's not a strategy. You cannot bind the strategy to a tool, because tools change. This is the strategy. It's always time. Today it's an app, tomorrow it's glasses, 4 years from now it's nanobots, whatever. But it's still time. That is the strategy. So we wanted to remove the requirement of standing in line. So we did that with an app. Health, a big part of your health is what you eat. And, if you have a family, then, 1 week your daughter doesn't eat meat. The next week your son doesn't eat stuff that has shadows, whatever it might be. So we help with that as well, as I will show you in the next slide. And of course, money, next biggest expense after living is food. So when you are this super clear, our purpose became simplifying the customer's life. Because if we can help with time, health, and money, we will simplify your everyday life in a big way. And this is the only line I had for my organization. I had an organization of 120 people, and the only description I had for every single one is simplify the customer's life. And then they can do this by themselves, and they can become self-running. They don't need me to take decisions and so on. So, for instance, one of the ideas that came along was the allergy check. So you can set up scan and pay. You can say, warn me if it has these kind of products inside or ingredients, and just ping me and show me alternative. And every time someone gets an idea, they just look, at the 3 pillars: time, health, and money. And every idea that map towards all 3, they get priority. Every idea that map towards 2, like this one, they get second priority. And every idea that only maps toward 1, it has the lowest priority. And if an idea don't map towards any of those 3, we don't do it. So in this case, I'm not involved at all in any decision making, at all. And I cannot say anything. If there's an idea that goes towards 2, like in this case, it doesn't matter what I say. Just because I'm the highest ranking one, it means nothing, because they follow the strategy, not me. And my job is to make sure they understand where we are headed. So I'm sure you've read about these cases where people wake up in the morning and the watch says, you're about to die, you need to go to a doctor. And if you read one of my favorite things to do is to read patents, especially patents from those Magnificent Seven, because they give a sense of what kind of capabilities will their products have, what kind of experiences can we expect, what kind of behaviors can we expect, and also how to capitalize on that. So when I read patents, you get an idea of where the world is headed, and you get ideas of what kind of experiences do I want to be able to offer in this world. So one of the many patents I read is the Apple Watch patents, and I see that for every year they become more and more advanced. And I know that they are also looking into blood sugar level indicators, but beyond that, allergy indicators in the blood. So imagine, if you have an Apple Watch that is connected to your health, and if you buy something and you become really gassy afterwards, the watch detects that you maybe are lactose intolerant, then it will automatically enable the lactose filter in Scan and Pay. So that's an idea. That's just an example of the possibilities. But before we embark on any journey, I did that for Stena Line when I created the Pluto movie. It's still on YouTube, by the way, if you want to see it. Just search Stena Line Pluto, and it will be there. And I also created a movie for Co-op. Before I do anything, before I tell the organization, my first week, the first thing I do is create a movie that shows what kind of experiences can we expect in the next 5, 6, 7 years. And I did that also for Co-op, and I want to show you that movie now, and then afterwards we can talk a little bit about it. I'm not sure if the sound transfers. It should, but let me know if it doesn't.
Vi vill hjälpa människor att göra bra och hälsosamma val med en tydlig vision. Bra mat till ett bra pris. Efter 120 år är vi lika fast beslutna om att göra skillnad. Och när tiderna förändras står vi redo. I en verklighet där tiden är knapp, där miljön påverkar våra beslut och där alla borde ha rätt till hälsosam mat. Nu introducerar vi Scan and Pay. Med Scan and Pay skannar du enkelt dina varor direkt i mobilen. Lägger till eller tar bort dem ur din varukorg. Sedan betalar du enkelt via Swish och slipper kö. Men det här är bara början. Vi måste gå hand i hand med utvecklingen, världen omkring oss, dina behov. Vi måste fortsätta satsa på smart teknologi som skapar bättre upplevelser och möjligheter, vilket lägger grunden för ett handlande som är enklare och mer klimatsmart. På Scan and Pay ger vi våra kunder bättre verktyg till att få ihop pusslet. Att ta oss in i framtiden kommer inte att vara lätt, men vi är fast beslutna om att leda utvecklingen hela vägen.
So imagine, in 2028, when we probably have glasses that can show graphics and everything, it's connected to your health data, it's connected to Scan and Pay. Imagine going into a store in a couple of years, and if you haven't done your exercise properly, your glasses, they will block the candy and you cannot see it. I mean, wouldn't that be awesome? Or as soon as you look at something, you can see immediately thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs up, thumbs down, if it's good for you or not. So these kind of experiences is my job as a leader, to inspire the organization. And then if it turns out exactly like this or something else, it doesn't really matter. It's important to have, a guiding star. And again, if you read patents, I really urge you to do that. Sometimes maybe you shouldn't physically eat a chocolate because you haven't done your exercise, but mentally you might need one. So fear not, because future AirPods will be able to read your mind, basically. So you can see that if you really need that chocolate or not. And this brings us to the next chapter of experiences. What comes after the app? So I divide this in recent years in 3 chapters. The first one was the web that changed everything. Then came the app, changed everything times 100. And what we are headed into now is not a cooler web page or a faster app. We're headed into the next chapter, which I call the assistant. And what does that mean? So Meta has already started with this today. They have glasses with cameras and built-in ChatGPT, where you can I use this a lot when I go to museums. For instance, I look at a painting or a sculpture and I ask, hey, Meta, who's this? And it says, Raphael, 1563, Fish and the Boy, or whatever it might be. So these are only looking at something. They cannot paint graphics, but of course graphics are coming as well. And many people sometimes they tell me, you know what, they look like, big nerd glasses. Ha ha ha, no one is going to wear them. What you need to understand that they look like that today, but 2 years ago they looked like this. And 2 years from now, they will look like the glasses I have on me right now, really, really thin. So don't worry about that part. It's being solved. And obviously, if you don't want glasses, you can wear lenses. And one of the most common questions I get for this slide is, where is the battery? And I always jokingly said, you know what, maybe you can charge it with your tears. And it was meant to be a joke, but almost a little bit more than 1 year ago, a group of scientists in Singapore figured out how to charge them with, I don't know if it has to be human tears or not, but anyway, with human tears. So by 2030, if you see someone crying on the street, you cannot assume stuff. You have to ask them, are you okay, or are you charging? So that's the future we are headed towards. And this is all driven by generative AI, or ChatGPT, as most of you know it. But I will not talk about the technology, because the important part is to understand how this will affect our everyday life. And this is where I come to A, which stands for agent to agent. Because in the future, it started already now with the latest iOS update with Apple Personal Intelligence and other similar agents. So everyone will have their own personal AI agents, like in the movie Her, if you've seen that, or Jarvis in Iron Man, something similar to that. And this will cause a shift in behavior. So what do I mean by that? So up until now, we've had users using an app or a web which is connected to a service. So Uber, Foodora, bank apps, and so on. What we're starting to see today is a user interacting with an AI agent, which is then connected to a service. So Klarna is a good example of that. It started as a Q&A agent, but they have slowly started connecting it to services. So now you can ask for your saldo, for instance, and it will connect to a service and show you your saldo. Myself, I'm building similar services. And just to give you an example of how that might look and feel like, I've been building this service for home care, elderly care. This company has a problem where some relatives sometimes call them and ask, my mother hasn't answered, is she okay? And this is a huge problem for them. So I built an AI agent for them, which is connected to the sensors of each flat and each patient, because they have sensors in the flats. They have cameras. Sometimes they have Apple Watches. They have everything. So we simply connected ChatGPT basically to these sensors, and I'll give you an example of how that might look like, so you understand the concept. I have a demo on my phone. Let's see. I don't know where the mic is on the laptop, but I'm hoping you can hear it. So let's see. Hi there. I'm trying to reach my mother, but she's not answering. Could you check if everything is okay?
Of course. Let me check for you. Your mother seems to be doing well. I see that she woke up around 8:20 a.m., which is a bit later than usual. She has a slightly elevated temperature, but nothing alarming. I'll continue to monitor the
عفوا
situation.
ممكن تعيد الجواب بالعربي؟
بالطبع. حسب الأنظمة المرتبطة بخدمة الرعاية المنزلية، والدتك بحالة جيدة. أرى أنها استيقظت
شكرا
حوالي الساعة
حبيبي.
28.
So that was an example of what that looked like, that behavior. You talk to an AI agent, which is then connected to a bunch of systems and sensors. And one of the big requirements they have is that they need to be able to support every language that exists within the municipality. And out of the box, this chatbot can support 41 languages, I think. But even this is old school, because what we're headed towards, it's not me talking to this AI agent. It's my AI agent that talks to your AI agent, because I shouldn't have to bother with stuff like that. unless I want to, of course. So my AI will understand that I'm worried about my mother, and if a certain period of time goes by without hearing anything from her AI, then my AI will call the elderly care system AI and discuss and talk just the way I did now. So A2A communication will be the most common form of communication moving forward. Lastly, I want to leave you with this, just to give you a sense of understanding of how fast things are moving. So when ChatGPT was released in 2022, it was the equivalent of this Motorola phone from 1973. What I just demoed for you now, what I showed you now, what I'm building, it's basically this. It's the Nokia phone. And in 2 years from now, we will be here. And the question you need to ask yourself is this: when you held the Nokia phone 20 years ago, 25 or whatever it was, in your wildest fantasy, imagine you've taken ecstasy, LSD, everything. Could you have imagined the iPhone today? No way, right? So you need to understand, 2 years from now, you have no idea. It's easier for you to imagine a flying pig than what is available only 2 years from now. Thank you very much. For those of you who want to contact me, you can scan this QR code with the cats and get to my LinkedIn page. That's the easiest. Or you can go through my homepage. Thank you.